Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all.
God, I thought that would never come. It's the final episode of season 3 of the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me is co host and producer.
Sam, James, I'm ready for a holiday.
Yeah, it's been exhausting, hasn't it? Absolutely exhausting. I don't know if people realise how hard it is to sit in a chair and talk absolute cobblers every week.
I wondered where you were going with that when you said car. I was like, pardon? We're a family-friendly podcast, James.
That's right. That's why I use the word cobblers.
We do need to win an award, though. I feel like we've got like some good little bits under our belt, but I do feel like we need to win some sort of award so we can start calling ourselves an award-winning podcast.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You hear that,
I
Hornby
thought,
Magazine?
yeah. I'm now free weekend of Gets, Hornby. I've changed job and I've got that weekend off now, so I am available to accept the award. Just saying, just
And
saying.
however, James, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? You know that model I've been building for the last 3 weeks?
Yeah?
I'm still building it.
No.
I told you it was pendant style. Pendant style takes a long time to make, but it's worth it. It's almost there. Almost. Well, I say almost. The main barn, storage, warehouse, whatever you want to call it. Currently is well, I did make some windows, but I wasn't happy with them, so I've poked them out and I'm trying to make some more refined versions. Otherwise, it needs a hoist for the upstairs storage level and a roof, and I'm going to put some lights in it. Bit of weathering, it's all sorted. And then hopefully there'll be a video out if you're listening Monday, hopefully this week, but I'm not promising that.
Still better than me.
You done nothing?
No. I mean, I've done lots of weathering actually, but yeah, weathering has been great. I've had a lot of fun. It always scratches that little itch of certain locos that I do kind of want, but I don't need a sixth class 33, or I don't need a third 37, and little bits and bobs like that. So the weathering side of it has been delightful. I do still
Yeah.
like trains though.
Well, we all like trains, don't we? That's what I like to hear. So cool. So that's what you've been up to. That's what I've been up to. I tell you what else I did. I took advantage of that Model Browse Direct sale as well. That was quite the shopping spree, I got to say.
Go on, how much did we spend? Also, let me rephrase this. How much did you tell your wife you spent versus how much did you actually spend?
It's none of her business what I spent. So,
We've been talking about this in group chats, haven't we? Where the idea that there's the how much is everything worth kind of thing, and how much have you told people it's actually worth?
yes, that's it. It was only a tenner. Yeah. No, I got myself another Renius. I've had the Narrow Planet kit for some time. Obviously, having done the original Renius conversion with a Narrow Planet kit, I picked up another one when they came out again. I was like, oh. And yeah, the Renius Loco was put on a sale and on a price. I thought, well, do you know what? I don't think I'm going to get it better than that. And I wasn't looking for it to do it right now, but I was like, you know, strike while the iron's hot, sort of thing. So I picked that up, and then a number of wagons as well, including some very, very good priced Rapido wagons. Um, I mean, some of them were as low as £14, which is superb when you think about that's sort of the standard price for a Hornby old 80s tooling wagon. So yeah, I was very, very happy with all that.
Oh, good for you. I look
Mm.
forward to seeing the Reneus conversion.
Yeah, I don't want to get back to that. That's probably later down the line. It's got other things to do before I start converting another loco. I'm not desperate to convert it, but I will probably make it. Will turn Renius into Renius. Um, I think I will just do a railway series version with a smoke box door, not a face, obviously. And just as I've seen a few models of it. I think Tom Foster's looks quite superb, and I was like, yeah, I'd quite like one, a little cameo on my layout. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be Dolgok because I do like Dolgok, but it won't be a fictional loco. Well, maybe it's yes, it will be a fictional loco, I suppose. But we shall see. There's plenty to do on the layout at the moment. News has been awfully dry, hasn't it? But there is a little bit.
Go on then. Let's talk about what news we've got.
Well, fortunately, we left it so long, we managed to get an email through from Hornby to announce that they have got a new club exclusive model, which is an A1 Class Terrier in London South Western Railway livery. So if you're quite fond of the old Era 2 models, and more of you are a London South Western Railway modeler, particularly with that T3 coming from EFE, that'd be quite a nice little setup if you want to do a little sort of London South Western modelling there. Yeah, so that lovely. I don't know what green they call it. I mean, it's kind of like a lime green color. I'm sure it's not referred to as lime green, but yeah, it's the green with sort of plum lining, and it is at 164.99. Only 500 available, exclusive to the Hornby Collector Club members. So you'll have to be a Hornby Collector Club member to get it, but that is Hornby's latest offering. Obviously, this week, I think Wednesday will be the TT announcements, and we'll cover them when we come back. Slightly annoying. We worked out all the dates, I think, and then we've been struggling for news, and then saw the post on Instagram. I was like, that's just all that is. We decided to take a 2 week break. Hornby decided to announce their TT stuff. We knew it was coming. We just hoped it was going to be a bit sooner, but never mind. What do you reckon they might announce? Got any ideas?
Right, so I reckon I'm trying to think of what's popular in Hornby's double O range that has been around for a while. It's a staple. People love it. I think a Q1 might pop up.
Q1, that's
It's the first Hornby steam loco that popped into my head that wasn't a Scotsman or Mallard or one A2, A3, well, A4, whatever the designations are for it.
I think Peachy touched on this, and he said about the 9F. So I think that probably the 9F is a good chance of appearing. I mean, it is. When they first launched TT, and they had a list of phases they were going to be running through. I think they've kind of quietly dropped the phasing. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the 9F. I think maybe a 47 diesel wise. I'd be quite nice to see a 20. Something a bit more Type 2-ish, I think, is what we need. You know, Type 1, Type 2 diesel, and a DMU. Desperately need a DMU.
I'd love to see a 150. But it's trying to work out what Hornby do already, and that's not to say that Hornby can't go outside of their box. But in my head, not being Mr. Businessman, I'd be thinking, if we do something well in double O, how can we switch that over to a TT version of it? That's how I'd be thinking. And there's obviously like the 9F got great praise. I know they're old Lima toolings, but you're right. The 47 and the 20 definitely have great feedback about them. I mean, a Black 5. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Black 5. With the 9F and the Black 5 are two of the locos that have been screamed and shouted about in the last couple of years. So
there's got to be something Great Western, right? I mean, we're quite lacking in Great Western steam, which is quite a surprise, really, with the popularity. I always thought the Panya would be the first tank engine to appear in the TT range, but obviously the J50 makes sense. It goes with the two mainline engines, but you know, I think one of the easiest things if you want to build a little model in TT, you know, just have a little starter. You know, a Great Western branch line is probably the go-to. That's probably why, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, there used to be every model show just used to be Great Western branch line Termises everywhere because they were just the easiest to you know build and showcase a few models on.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see anything. Obviously, we talked 40-year rule a couple of weeks ago. Maybe we'll see something that starts to. Maybe we might get our first announcement of Network Southeast. We've obviously had Intercity and BR Blue. I wouldn't be surprised if it tends to fall in the line of something that is similar to what's already been announced. So we've already had Mark II Fs or Mark II Es that came out, and they were the BR Blue. So maybe if we had another coach that was either a Mark II or a Mark I that had that sort of 40-year rule, so maybe a ScotRail, maybe some more Intercity, maybe some Network Southeast. I feel like sitting along that line might be a good bet, because maybe doing something that is similar to what's already been announced, why the 9F wouldn't be a bad shout, because they've already done the sort of big locos from that area. Whereas, like you say, they haven't done any Great Western, and I feel like that almost looks like the weird fish in the pond if you suddenly do that. Whereas if they sort of slowly move around the country to do them, maybe that'll be it. So maybe the Q1 is actually a terrible choice by me.
Yeah, so it was just your instant Southern bias there, wasn't it?
It was that but it was simply the two locos that I think of when I think Hornby Steam, especially for me at the moment, is the Q1 and the Black 5. And for some reason, the Q1, I thought that seems like the quintessential loco. It's been around for years. Hornby have nailed the tooling on it. It looks great, and it would be something that would cement itself within the range, but it doesn't. It feels like obviously we had the large logo 50, and then there's going to be a large logo 37, and I was just sort of trying to think about what would be an easy bleed in so that people who already have a range of the TT stuff can add something to their collection without it looking out of place. But also somebody who's not involved in TT could pick it up and go, that's the loco that's sold me on it. Whereas if you do something that's a little bit too out there, that's isolated and by itself, like a pannier tank, maybe that feels a little bit wrong.
No, you could have a layout with just panel tanks on it. There's nothing wrong with that.
This is all pure speculation.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice to see some blue grey Mark ones. They obviously got the Mark 1 tooling, so it'd just be a case of just having repaint. A return of the BR Blue 08, I think that would be a welcome one. More brake fans, I think, is seeing the price of what one went on eBay the other day. Definitely more brake fans. It was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, new tooling wise, it's hard. I think DMU, if I was going to go DMU, I think I'd go with the 101. Like you say, the 40-year rule, it would fall into that. It would fall into the Steam era for a first generation unit, and the fact that they even ran up to around 2003, you could just about push it into the modern era. Not right up to date, but most modelers in TT are quite flexible with their eras and time periods, whilst the range is so small. So there's no one really going, oh, it's not a model for me. It's usually a case of I'm buying it because there's nothing else to buy. So
can you imagine if they brought out the Class 423? I'd lose my mind. That might be the sell everything button that I need.
Well, that's it. That's it with TT, isn't it? It is the right scale for that sort of range, isn't it? The modern day units and third rail electrics and stuff like that. It's perfect size for that. And
considering the size of the trains that you can run or need, because it's got that thing of having the beauty of having a 4-car, but then that 4-car can easily be an 8-car or a 12-car kind of thing. So you can it's almost like an add-on pack to increase the size of your layout if you wanted it to.
That's it.
All speculation.
That's it, all speculation. But yeah, it's curious. I mean, obviously, the other news this week was that Curaçao have they've passed the post for their Electrostar startup, and so they are now moving to production of them. So that's quite exciting times, and obviously shows that the market is interested in this kind of thing. So you never know. But maybe what we should do is have a bit more of a chat about Modern Image and ask the question: is Modern Image killing the hobby?
Sir, a delivery has arrived for you.
Bring it through, Wilson. This'll be my loco I sent to Emperor's Path.
Was it airbrush or oils this time?
Both. It's all very affordable.
Even for a poorly paid butler like me?
Oh, yes. Just remember, Emperor's Path Weathering.
Contact Sam at Emperor's Path via email at emperorspathcontact@gmail.com or Instagram at emperors_path. If it's not filthy, let's fix that.
Look at that!
Right, that was the last time you'll hear old Lord Chester this season anyway. So, Sam, it's a topic discussion for our final episode. We have actually, in fairness, touched on this several times through this season, in particular with Hornby announcements and that. But it's the question of, is modern image modelling killing the hobby?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? And I think you can read it in several different ways. So when you suggested this as a topic, I was trying to think, what is it that you mean? I think the best way to look at it is that Modern Image certainly feels like you have this weird thing where you either have too much of the same thing and not enough diversity in what you're running on your layout, or is Modern Image too big to run on a model railway or too expensive in the grand scheme of things? So we talked about the TEA wagons and how you need to have a block of them to make them look viable. So you're talking that you need at least 8, for example, on a £60 wagon. That starts to add up very quickly. And it's the same with coaches. Coaches are, let's look at the Acura scale, Hornby, Bachmann coaches. They all range somewhere between £50 to £90, depending on the coaches that you're purchasing. And that's a lot when you have to build a rake of them. You don't just have 2 coach rakes in your modern day stock, do you?
Yeah, that's it. I think, yeah, you sort of, it's a two-pronged attack, I think, with this one. It is 2 questions of, is, like you say, is the modern day world actually attractive enough to get people into the hobby? I think it's one of the first questions to ask. Is there enough out there to make people feel inspired and want to model it? Is the 40-year rule going to work out, down the line, for the next generation of modelers? Are they going to feel that nostalgia and want and need to start modeling what they see on the network today? Are they going to want to just model turbo stars and class 66s, just trundling up and down the line with no real variety? Is there an appeal there? It's the same for today. Is there an appeal today? Is that the reason why people are venturing on to era 2? Is the Steam era just far more fascinating?
It definitely feels like it. And I'm going to shock everyone. This is the second week in a row. I'm going to shock everyone with a statement. Uh, if you were modeling southern networks, so let's say Portsmouth to Waterloo, depending on what part of that you model, you've got next to no freight in that area, and you have very, very similar units that are running, albeit the second that you get to let's say inside the M25 or maybe Guildford at a push, then you start getting slightly different units, very different liveries. So a lot of the Southern EMUs are all painted roughly in the same branding with maybe a few numbers that are slightly different, might have a special brand or something like that. And you all have the difference between a 4-car, a 5-car. And then you get to Guildford and you've got the 455s, which are in that very striking bright red Southwestern Railways livery. And then you get to Waterloo, and then you do start seeing there's a couple of DMUs that sit there. But actually, what you can run within that region suddenly becomes quite repetitive. And I know that contradicts what I said in the questions, how I'd love to do Waterloo. But to some people, they don't want to have to go out and buy 4 to 12 versions of the Class 450 and have to renumber all bar one of those units. What they'd like to do is be able to go and purchase this thing, then another thing, and then another thing. And whilst building up a rake of coaches is fun, like it becomes a problem. Whereas when you start looking at the Steam era, you can run a small tank engine with 2-3 coaches and it doesn't look out of place. And I know we can do that with DMUs and EMUs, especially on the Southern, but it can become very repetitive and, dare I say it, dull to anyone who's not interested in it. And that's when you get that thing of, this is just a load of EMUs. I could go to Waterloo and see this. But someone like myself or Danny, we look at that thing and we go, cool, it's so and so. Oh, yeah, okay, well, that's that unit that does this, this, and this. But that's because we're Southern nerds. Whereas somebody who's from the North, who all the time, and my journey last week completely proved it, I saw so much on one journey. And I was just like, cool, if I had this in my region, it would make modeling my region so much more interesting, and there'd be so much more scope of what I could get or couldn't get. But then likewise, the very few bits of freight that I could do in my network, it's, let's say, go for the shipping containers that run out of Southampton docks. We're talking, what, 20 to 40 flatbeds that then you have your shipping containers on? That's a lot just to have a realistic rake.
Yeah. These trains are huge, and that's what you said. You touched on it earlier as well. It's the cost, isn't it? The modern day image modeling is so much more expensive when you're trying to model these bulk trains. And as you say, those container trains can reach up to around 30 wagons in length. And yeah, you could get Hornby Railroad ones and build up rakes like that. They wouldn't be accurate, but it'd be a lot cheaper. But when you start looking at the more expensive ones, you buy like even second hand, the Bachmann Bachmann Dapol, the Bachmann double flat Freightliner wagon sets. They reach about 45 to 50 pounds on the second hand market. So for four, you're talking that's £100 already. Eight to 200. 16, which is probably about half the length. That's already at £400. So having the space to model the full length train of around, we say it's about 30 wagons. I mean, hitting 800 quid there for a train like that, and then you've got to have the space for it. Then you've got to be able to fit it in. Then you need a locos for it, and it's like, maybe the appeal of modern day is just not there because it's just too expensive. Is that the issue? Is that what will bring an end to the hobby? Will that be that, in like saying that 40-year rule down the road, will people look at, well, I used to like that, but I can't afford to model that. And will that be sort of the final nail in the coffin?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we love to model what we see, what we remember. We also love the modern day stuff, but it's trying to, and this is why you see so many branch line terminus layouts at shows, because you can model the era that you like and roughly the region that you like, and you can have your 2-3 car DMUs or even some of your 2-car EMUs, and you can have them. You'll have a smaller space to manage it in. I'm on the wrong end of this scale because I'm looking at 7 to 10 coach rakes in my fiddle yard, where I've stupidly decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to model long, realistic rakes of coaches. I could have sat with 5 or 6 and felt really happy, but for some reason I decided to push it that little bit further and go for the longer rakes. That's my own fault. I don't want. For me, I didn't want to look at this as from the point of view of everything's expensive, as in the manufacturers are making things too expensive. That's a completely different topic. But I think it's the fact that for a lot of modern trains, and maybe this is the reason we don't see as many modern trains, and like you say, we're starting to see more Era 2 modeling because they weren't running, Era 2 stuff wasn't running 10 coach rakes, I imagine, or at least definitely not on a wide scale like we see almost everywhere nowadays.
No, you might get like 10 coaches of 4-wheelers or something, wouldn't you? But
yeah, but it comes down to, it's not necessarily that everything is too expensive. I'm trying to word this so it doesn't feel like we're attacking the manufacturers, because this actually isn't their fault, or at least I don't believe it's their fault, because they are trying to model what is on the network in a modern day form. It's extremely difficult to model what's on the network in a modern day form without compromising somewhere. So do you suddenly make a 4-coach pack even though the train runs in a 7-coach fixed rake? Like, there's these big beautiful units that the Azumas, but they come out in is it a 4-car that they all come out in
five cars, and then you can get a 4-coach add-on pack.
So you're then trying to model that, and then you get the people who complain, well, it's not a realistic size train. So then you add in the additional coaches, and then it's that all of these things start sort of, it's trying to compromise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that's one of the things that where modern image sort of, it's like a rod for your own back kind of thing, in that there's a high demand for really high detailed models that all manufacturers are trying to meet and do across all eras. They're trying to up the game and everything. But the problem modern image has is there's no second-hand market cheaper alternatives for some of these models. There is no second-hand cheaper alternative to the IET. There's the Hornby one. It's come out, and that's what you can get. You can look on this. You might find one on the second-hand market, but you're still going to be looking at similar prices to what you're paying in the shop, because there isn't like a first generation lower detailed one, or there wasn't. Eventually there will be, because you know what? I think maybe Hornby have looked at this issue and have said, and I think we discussed it when we did talk about the Hornby announcements, and it was one of the things that we liked so much about it was they looked back at the railroad range and went, hang on a minute, this is meant to be a range for modelers at an affordable price, but still allowing them to access the hobby. And if you want to attract the younger generation into the hobby, because this is where modelling falls down, and again, it's like where we touched on that 40-year rule, is that, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I loved Network Southeast diesels because that was what I saw. I saw Network Southeast everywhere. I remember trying to build a 47 in Lego in Network Southeast. You know, if I wanted, I know, I wanted a train set for Christmas, I got the Intercity Swallow HST because that's what I saw and that's what was out there, and that's what appealed to me. And if you are at that point now where these models are so expensive, they are out of the reach of children, you know, no one in their right mind, maybe the odd person, but no one's going to pay out, you know, the £500 price tag on a Hornby IET for an 8-year-old. You know, it's not going to happen. And I think Hornby have looked at that, and that's why they've, you know, decided, well, you know, the IET will be everywhere. It's going to be on every main line across the network. It is the new HST. It is the train that every child will see. It is the train that most children will probably travel on if they travel on a train. If they want to go into model railways, this is the model that we need to produce, and we need to make it affordable and accessible. And that's what they have done with the introduction of the railroad model. And I'm hoping that that's the way Hornby will carry forward. It's interesting to see that the Class 66 has moved into the railroad range. You know, it's been taken out of the main line, and it's gone into railroad, which makes a lot more sense. Again, it's a low detailed model. It's using old Lima tooling, and it's just, you know, if you know, again, if an 8-year-old wants a Class 66, you're not going to go out and buy them the Acura scale, 180 to 190 pounds, whatever price tag it's currently reaching, for an 8-year-old with a high detail model that it's probably going to get broke. Yeah, I think it's like you say, it's a difficult place for manufacturers to be in, with the fact that, you know, there is this demand for detail, but they're also, you have to come at a point where you've got to make it accessible for the beginner and the younger generation.
Mm. And you then come down to, I'm trying to think of small freight wagons that you would see in this day and age on the network, but it feels like most of it is long rakes of big bulk trains because they want freight to be, in essence, freight needs to be profitable for it to be done by rail, doesn't it? So the more they can fit behind a single train makes more sense for them from a profit margin. So we're going, and this is me, complete beginner, and I don't deal with real life trains that often, but it would make sense to me that for freight it needs to be a long train to make it more viable, to make it worth having running around. So when you then try and model that in model form, you need to have a similar rake, and you can make compromises, but there are times where those compromises do really affect the visual part of it. I find that, especially with, and this is why heritage railways play such a giant part in why it's got such a big boom of what people model, because a heritage railway gives you the option that you don't need to have the big long rakes of stuff. You can have your modeling in X, Y, and Z. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw a container flat on a heritage railway, but using that as an example, it's one of the few trains on my layout that is much smaller than all the others, because heritage rakes usually run a 4 to 5 coach train rather than the 9-10 coach that you might see on the main line. And it allows you to sort of draw your scope. You also have the thing where with heritage, as far as I'm aware, none of the heritage railways are electrified. So then you've narrowed down what you can and can't run. So actually then you go, oh, well, my heritage railway can't actually run a Class 92. It can't run an electric multiple unit without having something pushing or pulling it on the other end of it. Hence why the London Transport, London Underground 4TC is always at diesel galas, because it gives you that EMU essence, the multiple unit thing that we're missing on our heritage railways, that's not going to get screwed over by being pulled by a diesel on those heritage railways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, that's logically, it's the closest you'll probably get, isn't it? I think I can't remember which type it was. I know there was one. I think it was at one of the Chinner diesel galas, I think back in 2017, 2018, something like that. They were looking at making it back. It was being hauled by a couple of diesels, but they were looking at making it battery powered to get it to run. But But again, I think it was only a 3-car set. So like you say, it's small enough to fit on that layout. And that's, yeah, I think modern image, its biggest problem is, like you say, for trains to be profitable, they've got to be as long as they'll fit on the network. The trains that come out of Watley Quarry and that are absolutely massive. And that's because they're trying to shift as much stone as they can in one go, rather than several short trips that are going to cost them a lot more in fuel, manpower, track running rights, all that extra cost. So they're going to try and run a bigger train, and if you wanted to model that in double O, you're going to need a lot of space to do that. So then maybe it is a case of you have to look around and try and work out, well, what could I model? And I think it can be done. I think you can model smaller trains. It's just working out what you can do. If you did an engineering train, something with a network rail. Now, I appreciate that the auto ballast wagons are like hen's teeth, and they are very expensive if you can find them, or if you buy the Bachmann Collectors Club, you'll be paying their current price for them. But you can model with those wagons a loco and 5 wagons, and it won't look wrong. And you can probably do that with some of the other available network rail wagons, like what Daypole offer in regards to like the Falcon wagons and stuff like that. You could just have one or two. I've seen it. I've seen videos of Carlisle of a Class 66 running with just one or two of these wagons behind it. A DB Lobster and a JNA. So it is possible. And again, other trains that you could possibly model. The Network Rail test trains, Class 37, with a couple of the yellow coaches. You could get away with 3 coaches, I reckon, with that, and it would still look right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just looking around and researching and seeing what you can do. And it's a bit of a shame, some of the MOD trains are quite short. Again, you can have just a couple of the vans behind it that they use, and again, Freightliner wagons. That's where you would only see like maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So you might get a couple of vans, a couple of Freightliner. I think they stopped it about 2014, but I mean, the MOD trains used to just have a couple of TTA wagons. That would be it. I remember running Class 66 with just 2 TTAs through Swindon and off towards Gloucester on an MOD working. It was a really tiny train, but great for modelling purposes. I think it's just a case of looking around and seeing what you can get away with.
Yeah, and then it then once again you then have to decide: am I going to model mainline? Am I doing a terminus? Am I doing a small branch line and things like that? That's when you have to make those, I'd say, difficult choices when it comes to modeling. Now, what I'm about to say feels like it's some weird sponsorship, because I've been going on about this since Peachy came on the show a few weeks ago. Maybe this is. So in the intro, we said, "Oh, what do you think is going to come out for the TT range?" And I think you've hit the nail on the head that the Azuma is possibly going to be the all-around on the railway everything. Maybe the TT announcement is going to bring out an Azuma for that modern day feel, and maybe this is why Hornby's gone for the TT side. It might not be. It might be purely because they're trying to get that halfway between N gauge and double O gauge. What if the reason Hornby have gone, right, we need to have a look at TT because it's going to solve a lot of problems. And that big problem is, and it might not seem evident now what is available, what if TT is the answer and is the thing that is going to save modern era, or what in 20 years will be the 2020s, the 2000s to 2030, let's say. What if TT is the thing that is going to save this particular era of model railways, where we have much longer trains that require much longer freight, much longer passenger and stuff like that? What if the reason that TT was eventually given the green light was eventually that is going to save modern era model railways, because we will be able to fit those much longer trains in a much smaller space that we can't necessarily do with double O. And I'm whilst we record these, I sit looking at my screen, but I'm facing my layout in the background. I'm looking at the size of the trains, and it's like, well, maybe TT is the answer to save our hobby, in the sense of we will be able to fit so much more in a much smaller space. And maybe Hornby have had the realization of actually it's not just another part of the market we can corner. What if it's the kind of thing where we need to at least invest a lot into TT because it's the perfect scale for modern era or longer trains and stuff like that, yeah, you can run branch lines. But imagine trying to fit what you want in a big station with double O versus trying to squeeze it into TT.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that was always one of the arguments, wasn't it? It was houses are getting smaller. It's harder to justify fitting that OO gauge layout in there. And that's why we want to use TT. Yeah, you've got N gauge. And I think you're right. If you, when you go to exhibitions, I've heard a lot of people complain there's never enough modern image layouts at exhibitions. And that's probably because the ones you do get are N gauge, because the N gauge ones are small enough to fit those really large, long trains in.
Mm.
OO gauge, you're asking for a lot of space to run a mainline layout. Um, anything else, modern image, OO gauge, like you say, a branch line terminus is going to be nowhere near as interesting in today's era as it would have been if it was back in, the days of steam, when there would be a local freight trip working coming along the branch and picking up and setting down wagons. The locos running around its coaches, there's all this activity going on. Whereas today, for the reasons of cost and simplifying things, take the Bourne End branch, for example, that used to be just have a line going off to Marlow around the corner, and the line would continue on towards High Wycombe, and it was very busy. Even better example would be Henley. Actually, Henley was very, very busy once upon a time, with locos and trains coming in and out of Henley. Now it's one platform with a two-car DMU that goes in and out all day. Imagine modelling that. Is that going to attract the crowds at the model rail show? Is that going to keep people interested watching the 165 trundle into the station, back out again, and that's all you get all day? Maybe that's the problem with it too. Efficiency in the real world has made it boring in the model world. So yeah, I think you're right. When we come to TT, it's a little bit bigger than N, which suits some people, because some people's argument has always been N's just a little bit too small, but it's still small enough to make decent length trains. I think off the top of my head, if you want to model a HST in OO gauge, you were looking about 9 feet of space for I think it's 7-car HST, possibly 8-car HST off the top of my head. And if you want it in N gauge, it's about just over 4 foot. So the TT HST is probably going to sit just in the middle there, around 6 feet. That's still a saving of 3 feet in length, which is a hell of a lot. We know, because space is so, precious to us as modelers. Saving 3 feet, so you can model a full length HST, could be a godsend. It could be what makes your line from a branch line being modeled in OO to a main line in TT.
Mm.
So maybe that is the answer to it. Maybe that's where it will go. As I say, it is interesting, and I think Hornby have looked at it. And again, going back to the railroad range, the other thing I liked was the use of the old Lima box open wagons. I think PTAs off the top of my head, or whatever the code they gave them. But they've bought them out again in Capax livery and Network Rail livery. Yeah, they're not right. They don't look. You held them up against the real life counterpart, you're going to start spotting a lot of differences. But for a modeler who's just starting out, they're perfect. For an 8-year-old that wants to get into model railways, that sees them on the network every day, if you buy them that wagon, they're not gonna be that bothered that it's not quite right. I know, being from when I was a kid and having models, I was never coming over those Hornby TTA tankers and with Texaco branding or whatever, and looking at it and going, well, actually, they never had that branding. They never looked like that. I was just happy to have those wagons.
I'm looking at it from a point of view of what do I have near me? What would, if I went to a show and I saw things coming in, it's very clear. And we've had Northern modelers say, I don't understand what you're saying. You're just saying numbers to me. It doesn't make any sense. Because we have various different classes of EMUs down here in the South, to which Southern people who like trains, who like that era of trains and that region of trains, will notice the differences. But if you had, let's say we have Portsmouth Harbour as an example, it is a terminus station. Main modelling point of it is that it is effectively built on a pier. So you've got a train station that's already got a great modelling part to it. However, the trains that are coming in there they're so, and this feels so sacrilegious for me to say, but I'm saying it from a point of view that for everyone, they are so samey in what they are. You'll get the Southwestern Railways, the 444s and the 450s. There are two Southwestern EMUs that come in and out of off the island. And if you don't know trains, and you're not looking properly, you'll just see them that they look, because at the front they both look very, very similar. So you've got loads of those populating the harbour. Then you've got our southern units, which most of which are the 377 Electrostars. They come in a 4-car or a 3-car version. The 3-car is a very new thing, but once again, looks very similar. Then you've got the Great Western Railways, the 158s are the ones that we get, and then you occasionally get the other one, but I can't remember what it's called. But once again, so you have 3 different colors, but a lot of the things are all very, very samey. So if you model that terminus station, you have a lot of the same things coming in and out and coming in and out, and it can get really repetitive from a modern point of view. So actually, you know that you've got, oh, well, I've got all these different multiple units, but they just look like multiple units. And that is the thing of why, for me, the 80s is far more attractive, is because you did have loco-driven trains as well as the EMUs and stuff like that. And it's why people like to model the heritage rail tour trains coming into stations, going out of stations. And it's trying to find the balance of doing something that feels realistic, but also doing something that's fun. Like, if you're an outside observer, would you find this layout fun, or would you find it everything looks the same? That's the question you have to ask.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's what is appealing and what is not appealing about it. And again, it's, I think we sort of touched at the beginning, is today's modern practices so efficient that it's just not fun to model. I know that if I'm going to go out and look at, engines on the real line, I'm not going out to look for the DMUs and the EMUs. They're not, like you say, they're just, once you've seen one, you've seen them all. I'm out there to look for the 66s and the 70s on the freight working, see what ones you can catch. That's the, again, as I said last week, what's your favorite TOC or whatever, and I said GBRF, and the reason for GBRF is they have lots of variety in their fleet. Their 66s aren't all just blue. There's different colours out there, different variations to spot, and makes it more fun and more interesting. It's more exciting to when you know that you finally clocked the large logo BR Blue 66 or the one of the triple grey ones. I'm quite enjoying Didcot Fuel Point at the moment, because 66004, I'm a club at Hero in the DB Shanker Green, which is like my favourite of the Curoscale 66 models. Now the real life ones outside the shed all the time. And it's great, and it's so nice to see it, because usually it's just either a DB red one or a very old tatty looking EWS livery. And that's sort of where it comes down to, it is what is going to appeal to people. And I kind of like it when companies like GBRF do try and make their locos more attractive, more interesting. And it's the same with retro liveries, isn't it? Railway companies like to appreciate their heritage and paint things in retro liveries. And again, once they do that, it does seem to sort of bring a bit of nostalgia, a bit of interest. Even again, touching it before, like the Midland Pullman. I never saw a blue Pullman in my entire life, but my dad was always very, very keen on the blue Pullman, very excited about the blue Pullman. Bachmann announced one. It was very, cool that they were making this model. But and then many years later, when the HSTs get retired, Locomotive Service decide that they're gonna do a Midland Pullman, and they paint one in the blue. And all of a sudden, there's that nostalgia there for something I never saw. But yeah, this is very exciting to go out and see it. And now, when it's running around, you go out your way to go and try and catch it, because it looks so striking and interesting. And maybe that's the other one. The one advantage you do have with the modern modelling is because on the real world, open access is a lot more than what it was with BR. We do get that variety of rail tours with steam engines and diesels and all these other things mixed in, that you can have that sort of little bit of variety in there too, which can add that interest.
Yeah, and I think that's when you have those little bits that can pop up. And I talk about it from a point of view of with the exhibition layouts. You do have that nice thing that you'll be watching and you'll be expecting, oh, there's diesels on this and diesels on this. And all of a sudden you see a steam train, you go, oh, that's interesting for this particular layout. When we were at Ali Pali, one comment that was said by a lot of people, and this might be sort of like the final part for me on this modern era thing, is there were a few modern era layouts there, and I was really excited to see them. I stood by some of these layouts for a little bit of time, and they have these huge fiddle yards that you can all see, and everyone's like, wow, look at the size of that fiddle yard. None of the trains were running. And as a hobbyist, you want to be able to stand at a layout. If I don't see anything running for 2 minutes, you've lost me. I don't want to stand already at a crowded layout where nothing's running.
We're
And
the
then-
MTV generation. We have a short attention span.
But do you get what I mean? Like we've got these really fantastic looking layouts where there's nothing running on it, and that actually it doesn't feel right, because even on my small little southern part of the line, where my actual office, where I'm based, but I don't necessarily work out of a lot, it looks right onto the Farlington Triangle. So I get to see quite a few units passing over and over and over again. So the one thing about modern day is actually it's constantly moving. You don't necessarily get many times where there's nothing running. And whilst I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, it's half 11. The stone quarry train's about to come through in a minute. That's the one thing during the day I know will be coming through that won't be a multiple unit. And then you might have a few random ones in between. But the modern era stuff is constantly moving. And yet we can't seem to, at exhibitions, get our layouts. And I know people have problems, but it felt at Ali Pali, it felt like that it was a constant thing across. And anyone who was there, I hope you can back me up on this. It just felt like all these modern era layouts of all these really beautiful, massive fiddle yards with lots of rolling stock, and they couldn't even get trains running. And most of them had 4 lines. Why is it so difficult to have these amazing layouts where at the big shows, they can't have at least 1 or 2 of the lines like constantly churning something round and then fix the other ones? What is that's the part that killed me a little bit at Ali Pali, actually, was that I felt like the modern era layouts were let down because they were the ones that didn't really have anything running, nothing was moving.
Yeah, do you know what? I've been to shows exactly the same. It's a really, as I said earlier, there's a complaint that there's not enough modern image, and when the modern image is there, I won't name and shame layouts, but I can think of at least 3 that I've stood up for some time, and because I like to film every layout and put it in my videos and try and get an appreciation for the hard work that these modelers put in. But sometimes it's not their fault. There's just we all have problems with electrics and things go wrong. But as you say, sometimes nothing happening. And when it's a really big layout, you'd expect something to be moving on it, and it's just not happening. And there's about 8 chaps just stood around in the fiddle yard, just all sort of scratching their heads, and it sort of takes you out of it. And then you'll go wander off towards a steam era layout, and again, I've seen steam era layouts where they do have problems, but they've still got one operator who's still managing to shunt the yard.
Yeah.
So there is something going on.
And I think Oak Road, the one you mentioned last week, that is one of the few modern era layouts I know of where they will always have something still working in the offsiding while stuff's going around. So even when they were having problems with the main lines, they were still had something that was moving in front.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the few modern era ones I can think of, or at least pops into my head, where you do still get stuff moving constantly. And I feel like that's the thing is you have 4 main lines. Surely you should have at least one thing running. And I would much rather see something moving. And I don't care if it's the same train that goes around 3 or 4 times whilst they're fixing another issue. I'd rather have something moving than nothing at all, because that will kill my attention span.
That's it, isn't it? I know it's hard because I don't want to be like bashing people. Appreciate the hard work they put into the layouts, appreciate the time and effort they do to go and put them on display. And when you read magazine articles, there's always a bit in there about the cameos of I've put this on for visual interest, I've put this on to keep the people entertained. But when you are a very busy exhibition, getting a spot at the front is hard enough as it is. Having the opportunity to wander across the front of the layout and really appreciate all the detail that's going on usually doesn't happen. It's very rare that you can have that privilege, and like you say, and then once you've spotted the little cameos directly in front of you, and that's about as far as you can sort of really see, and nothing's moving, then all of a sudden your interest is lost, isn't it? And yeah, it's a tough one. I don't as I say, don't want to be bashing people because I do appreciate their hard work, but it's a difficult one.
Let's finish then with modern era modeling isn't necessarily killing the hobby. It's modern era real life trains that are killing the hobby.
Damn you, privatization. That's what I say there. But I think actually, when it comes to it, you can model modern image. I don't think the efficiency of the modern day railway should restrict you in what you can model. There are trains out there. The beauty of the IET is it can be modeled in 5 car. There are 5 car versions. GWR run them as 5 cars, LNER run them as 5 cars, TransPennine run them as 5 cars, and something that small fits in nicely. GWR castle sets, reduced sized HSTs. Again, you can then model Cornwall and Devon, and you could do the doorless sea wall, and it wouldn't take up too much space because you haven't got massive trains on there. Even like touching back on the Midland Pullman, there's the Scottish version of the Blue Pullman that they run again in a short 5 coach set. So I think all it takes is just a bit of research and having a look and finding out what is out there, what can be run, and what you can do. And I think, if you want to model what you see, it is possible. It just takes a bit of an imagination.
Yeah, I agree. I think use your imagination, and you can sit there and you have to make that decision. Am I going to model completely realistically, or am I going to make the sacrifices I want so that I can run what I want in my era? I mean, imagine if there was a branch line version of the IET, or there was a 2 car version of the. We obviously used to have the 416s and the 414s, which, if you don't know, they are 2 EPBs, which are a 2-car electric unit. A little bit, they're the same body and chassis as a Thumper, the 205. Imagine if you had the electric version of that running around nowadays, like a class 450 that's a 2-car unit. Yeah, okay, you'd have to buy the unit and then you'd end up with. I mean, that's a minefield in itself, but that would be such a cool little idea to have the 2-car version of some EMUs. If you wanted to have particular units, make your own thing up if you want to. People seem to be happy to make up their own layout that's completely fictitious. Why don't we make up fictitious like locos that run round and things like that make our hobby more enjoyable? I think I'd love to see that. I think the Bachmann units are perfect for it, especially the 411s where the motors are in the front unit. You could easily turn those into a 2-car electric unit that runs around, and because you like the body style of that loco, you can have it running on your layout, and it just so happens that it's a 2-car unit that runs into your branch line terminus. Or likewise, you can make shorter trains to accommodate what you need to for your railway. So, in short, is modern era killing the hobby? No, I think it's just making us have to make more challenging decisions and possibly have to work on our wallet structure a little bit.
That's it. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Again, yeah. Why don't we do fictional railway companies? It happens a lot in narrow gauge modelling, but you never see it in mainstream modelling. And like you say, today we have open access operators that will buy old railway stock and then paint them up in their own house colours and run them on special services. You've got, the various freight companies that appear. Why can't you create your own freight company? You've definitely got options like that. And one other thing, which it kept popping in my mind. I keep forgetting to say it, but you don't have to run a full length train or even a short train. You could just model a depot. You could just model the 66s and 70s and whatever you have coming on and off a depot, and it's not going to take up too much space, and you still get to have a play with all the locos that you see out on the main line. So yeah, there's options out there, and there is ways, to come into the hobby if you want to model modern image and stay in the hobby and not feel threatened by the cost of modeling large modern day trains. As you say, it's not killing the hobby. Well, not from our point of view. Maybe the real life railways Don't make it easy, but there are ways to do it.
Agreed.
Cool. Right, shall we take a break? And then we need to do our shout out for our winner for the GS Models giveaway.
We do indeed.
Hello there, dear listener. We thought we'd just take a moment to talk to you about our Patreon. For the last few weeks, Sam has been putting out an advert impersonating David Attenborough, trying to entice you to give us your money. And you were right not to do it. But now we ask you from the bottom of our hearts to follow us on Patreon.
If you do want to support us in what we do, and you believe that what we do is good enough that you want a part of your money, you can find us on Patreon, and you can start donating for as little as $1 a month. It's in dollars, it's in freedom credits, however you want to say it, but eventually it will just take the pounds from your bank account. And if you do want to support James and myself, head on over to Patreon. There's varying levels and tiers that you can do, and there's even a tier where I'll weather stuff for you, and James gets the benefit of it. So why not support us on Patreon today?
Indeed. And that way we can get new microphones so you can stop complaining that you can't hear us. Right then, we're back, and I think the first things first then, Sam. We've made people wait long enough. I think it's time to announce who is the winner of the JS Model £75 gift voucher. We've taken all your comments off Instagram. There was a lot of interested people in wanting to win this prize, and a lot of wish listing of what they'd like to buy. And obviously, if you don't win the £75 gift voucher, you can use your own money and buy these models yourself. So everyone's a winner in a way, but there really is only one true winner, and that is King_Smallwood. So congratulations, King_Smallwood. We'll get in contact with you and arrange your delivery of a £75 gift voucher. Exhibition diary time then. As it's our last show for the season, we're going to take a couple of weeks break. I will try and cover as much as I can, so it's probably be up to the end of April. Any mispronunciations, etc., I don't care. I've got a big list to get through. If you live there, you know where I'm talking about, and you'll know how to get to it. All right, here we go. For the weekend of Saturday the 12th and Sunday the 13th. On Saturday the 12th, Royston District Model Railway Club, the Bassingbourn Village College in South End, Bassingbourn, near Royston. Epsom and Elwell Model Railway Club in Ruxley Church, Ruxley Lane, Elwell, Surrey. Ford Bridge Rotary Club at the Ford Bridge Charity Model Railway Exhibition in Avonwash Community Centre, 36 Shaftesbury Street, Ford Bridge, Hampshire. Also on the 12th, North East of England Engage Group is having the 7th Annual Engage Model Railway Exhibition at the Gateshead, Masonic Hall, Alexandra Road, Gateshead, time and where. Also on the 12th, High Wycombe District Model Railway Club at the Twisix Community Centre and Social Club on 203 Twisix Road, High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire. 12th is also the Association of the 16mm Narrow Gauge Modelers in the National Garden Railway Show at Stoneleigh Park, B4113, Kenilworth, Warwickshire. Swiss Railway Society 2025 AGM and Spring Get Together at Kidderminster Railway Museum. 12th is also the Rainbow Railways Lincoln Road Model Railway Show Engage at Lowport Centre, Lithgow in 1 Blackness Road, Lithgow, West Lothian. Norwich Model Railway Club Railway Exhibition at Helsden High School, Middleton's Lane, Norwich, Norfolk. Still on the 12th, there is a lot happening on the 12th. Merseyside and South West Lancs Engage Group Northwest Narrow Gauge Show, including the 009 Society AGM at the Rainhill Village Hall, Dane Court, Rainhill, Merseyside. Astley Christian Fellowship off the rails, Astley Independence Methodist Church in Manchester Road, Astley Thursday, Greater Manchester. De Haven Model Railway Society at the Methodist Church in Ludwig Way, Welland Garden City, Herefordshire. All weekend, 12th and 13th, Ashford International Model Railway Education Centre, the Ashford Festival of Railway Modelling at the Ashford College, Elwick, Ashford, Kent. North Down Model Railway Society Annual Model Railway Exhibition at the Bangor Grammar School in Crenshaw Road, Bangor, County Down. Also that weekend, Pentland Model Railway Group, the Lothians Model Railway Exhibition 2025, the Students' Union Heriot Watt University, Riccarton, Curry, Edinburgh, Lothian. Tame Valley Model Railway Club, Railroad 2025, at the Longdale High School, Spring Street, Hollingworth. I am doing terrible. I told you pronunciations were bad. Greater Manchester. Helston and Falmouth Model Railway Club. This is still for the 12th and 13th. I tell you, there's a lot going on. The Great Cornish Model Railway Show at Paul Academy, Church Road, Paul, Redruth, Cornwall. Ayr Valley Railway Modelers Club Spring Open Day. This is just for the Sunday at Melbourne House, Dalton Lane, Keighley, West Yorkshire. Also for the Sunday, the Sutton Coldfield Model Engineering Society of a public open day at Battery Green in Little Hay Lane near Lichfield, Staffordshire. There's one in the middle of the week on Wednesday the 16th. Bit of an odd one, but it's the Taunton Model Railway Group Open Day, Platform 1, Bishop's Lynyard Station, Station Road, Bishop's Lynyard, Taunton, Somerset. Then for the weekend of Saturday the 19th, so this is the Easter weekend, Crawley Signal Box Preservation Society having another open day at the Crawley Signal Box in West Sussex. Saturday 19th, Ilfracombe Model Railway Society, the Ilfracombe Model Railway Exhibition at Landmark Pavilion Theatre, Seafront, Welder Road, Ilfracombe, Devon. The Heart of England Narrow Gauge Modelers is having their monthly meeting at the 22nd Rugby Scout Hut at the Kent Hill Morton Rugby Warwickshire. Also on the 19th, the Berkshire Area Engage Group Society's 25th Anniversary Model Railway Exhibition at the Woodlands Park Village Centre, Mainford Way, White Waltham, Berkshire. Saturday 19th and Sunday the 25th, Gainsborough Model Railway Society Easter Open Day at the Gainsborough Model Railway, Florence Terrace, Gainsborough, Lincolnshire. Lymington Community Association with the Lymington Model Railway Exhibition at the Lymington Centre, New Street, Lymington, Hampshire. The big one then for 3 days, Saturday 19th to Monday the 21st, York Model Railway Show 2025 exhibition at Knavesmere Stand at the York Racecourse Road, York, North Yorkshire. So that's probably one of the bigger ones for the Easter weekend. I know JS Models will be there too. So if anyone who didn't win that prize, you can go have a little look there and see if there's anything that takes your fancy. Sunday the 20th, the Ilford and West Essex Model Railway Club having a special Easter live stream open day adjacent to the north side of the Chadwell Heath Station at Station Road, Chadwell Heath, Greater London. Saturday 26th is 32A Model Railway Club. So this is getting towards the end of the month, the 10th Annual Model Railway Show at Branswell Village Hall, Reepham Road, Branswell, Norfolk. Bolton Model Railway Society is having an open day at the Bolton Marketplace Shopping Centre, first floor, next door to H&M. 26 also sees the Yorkshire Vintage Toy and Train Fair at Eccles Hill Mechanical Institution, 93B Stonehill Road, Eccles Hill near Bradford and West Yorkshire. West Wales Railway Modellers at the West Wales Model Railway Show and Modelling Exhibition at Broned Arms Village Hall, Main Road, Bronwyd. Apologies, people of Wales. You live there, you know what I'm saying. Carmarthenshire. Crawley Model Railway Society's open day at Milton Mount School at Garrett's Drive, Pound Hill, Crawley, West Sussex. The Austerlitz Model Railway Club Spring Open Day, National Trust Barge Building Shed, Dapdune Wharf Road, Guildford, Surrey. Luton Model Railway Club at the Model Railway Exhibition in Stopsty High School at St Thomas Road in Luton, Bedfordshire. Still on the 26th is the Ilford and West so many now. It's cancelled. Doesn't matter. Ilford and West Essex Model Railway Club, cancelled. Doesn't matter. Blackheath Methodist Church Model Train Exhibition at the Blackheath Methodist Church, High Street, Valley Regis, West Midlands. Hornby Railway Collectors Association Limited, the Vintage Hornby Collectors Spring Exhibition at the Steam Museum of the GWR, Firefly Avenue in Swindon, Wiltshire. On the 26th, the Coventry and Warwickshire O-Gauge Group having a spring open day at the Church of the Holy Cross, St Austell Road, Wycombe, Coventry, West Midlands. And probably the big one of the weekend for the 26th and the 27th, Key Publishing Model World Live 2025 at the NEC in Birmingham. Also on the 26th and 27th is Mech Models, which is an Americana weekend. Unit 9 at Lancaster Park, Newborough Road, Needwood in Burton-on-Trent, Staffordshire. Carnforth Heritage at the Carnforth Model Railway Exhibition at the Carnforth Station Heritage Centre, Wharton Road, Carnforth, Lancashire. Saltlash Rotary Club Model Railway Exhibition in Isambard House, Station Road, Saltlash, Cornwall. There's the Winterslow Village Hall, Winterslow Model Railway Exhibition at Winterslow Village Hall, Middleton Road, Winterslow, Salisbury, Wiltshire. Sunday the 27th is the Bressingham Steam Museum Bressingham O-Gauge Model Railway Show at the Bressingham Steam Museum. Sunday the 27th, the Guildford O-Gauge Group is having a spring open day at the Normandy Village Hall in Manor Fruit Farm, Glaziers Lane, Normandy, Guildford, Surrey. There's also the Sutton Railway Group's Modelers Fair on the 27th at the Midland Hall, High Street, Sutton-on-Sea, Lincolnshire. And finally, we got there in the end, Exeter Gauge Old Group on the Open Day 2025 at the Wimpole Victory Hall, School Hill, Wimpole, Devon. That's April covered. All right. Done. Should we do some social media shout outs?
Oh yeah, I think I need it after that.
Oh, exhausting, wasn't it?
I
You
wasn't
said
even
that,
reading it, and it was exhausting. But hooray for model railways having so many events on. At
I
least they're not
know.
all open days.
That's it. It's crazy. Oh, yes, that was forgot about that. The parade of open days. What have you got then, Sam? What are you shouting out this week?
So, James and I always say how it'd be nice if there were more things like a podcast that were available to us. And a friend of the show who came on for a previous episode hinted at something coming up in the future. And I think it's only fair that we give them a shout out. Every Thursday night, that's UK Standard Time, or GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, you can find the Shunting Yard doing a live stream. Now, usually they run for about 2 hours, and each week they have a different subject that they want to talk about. Is it a podcast? I'm not entirely sure. Is it a YouTube channel that you can go and view? Yes, it is. Go and give them a shout and tell them that the boys at the Model Rail Replacement Podcast sent you. James, who have you got?
Well, my final one for this season is Beaton Howe Junction. So only 645 subscribers, and it's a bit of a mix of videos. There's some modern image modeling in there, but I think the last one was probably a May layout update of 2022, and then he wandered on to 009. The videos aren't always on here, but when they are, they're quite good to watch. Quite an interesting follow. And as I say, it's a 009 build, so I've been quite interested in following that. So yeah, that's Beaton Howe Junction on YouTube. Well then, Sam, that's it. Another season wrapped up. And we've only been doing this for a year, but 3 seasons. Not many people can make that sort of claim, eh? 3 seasons in a year.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but you know what? It's our show, and we can do what we like. But
Exactly.
yeah, we've got a few weeks off now, so I hope that you enjoy the time off over the Easter period. If you don't celebrate Easter, then I hope that you enjoy some peace and quiet, and then you appreciate us more when we come back.
Indeed. And we shall return on the 28th of April for what's it, season 4. Oh my goodness. When we're going to have a little revamp, I think. So hopefully things will be a little different, a little bit fresher, and we'll still be entertaining you. So with that in mind, all I can say is that hopefully we have been entertaining, informative, and have replaced your model railway, if only just for a little bit. I've been James, with me's been Sam, and we say thanks for listening.
This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.